Welcome back to Astronomical Learners YouTube channel. So today, parents and educators, I wanted to play a game and ask, have you heard any of these learning to read myths? If so, let's go over them. All right, so first one, which I hear a lot all the time, is reading is a natural process, just like learning to talk. This is a myth. What are the facts? The facts are reading is not biologically natural. It's a human-made invention. So unlike spoken language, it must be explicitly taught. The next myth I always hear is children will learn to read if surrounded by books and just immersed in print, like these literacy-rich classrooms, right? The facts are exposure alone is not enough. Many children are going to have different brain wiring. Some include reading difficulties. They require explicit, systematic instruction. This myth I also hear. If a student can memorize a list of words, they must have mastered spelling and phonics, right? Nope. Memorization does not guarantee understanding of spelling patterns or phonics skills. Students may perform well on lists, but fail to generalize rules to new words. This is a common challenge for our dyslexic learners. Another myth. Whole word memorization is how the brain processes words, right? Wrong. Neuroscience shows that the brain decodes words by mapping letters to sounds. This is what we cut orthographic mapping from. It is not by memorizing whole shapes or whole words together. Here's a myth I hear. Dyslexia can be fixed with repetitive drilling, rewards, or behaviorist corrective methods. This is false. The facts are dyslexia is a neurologically based reading difficulty. It is not a behavioral problem. While repetition and reinforcement may support in a short term, they cannot replace explicit systematic instruction that includes phonology, decoding, and which is involved in structured literacy. Here's another myth I hear all the time. Structured literacy is only for the dyslexic kids. Wrong. Structured literacy benefits all learners, including English language learners. It's essential for students with reading disabilities. Here's another myth. Behaviorist approaches like ABA or performed by BCBAs are sufficient for teaching reading to neurodivergent children. Unfortunately, this is very wrong. The facts are, teaching reading requires an understanding of language structure, phonemic awareness, and orthographic mapping. This cannot be fully addressed by reinforcement of certain rules or schedules. Structured literacy is the requirement. Here's another myth. I've been told my child has Irlen Syndrome. I believe it is a recognized medical condition. Well, did you know it's actually not recognized by the World Health Organization, other major medical bodies, and RANSCO, or the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Ophthalmologists, which are eye doctors, they have stated that there is absolutely no scientific evidence to support the existence of Irlen syndrome. Here's another myth. Reinforcing correct reading through external rewards is the best way to teach dyslexic students. Unfortunately, that's not true. The facts are reward-based systems may have a short-term engagement, but they do not replace explicit, structured teaching of the phonemes, syllables, decoding strategies. This is what research tells us works. Here's another myth. Colored overlays improve reading fluency and comprehension for all individuals with dyslexia. This is wrong. The facts are, research tells us that colored overlays do not improve reading performance. Now, you will have some students that say that they see the benefits, and it's okay to have a personal preference, but unfortunately, the science does not prove its effectiveness. Here's another myth. Dyslexia is just the result of poor behavior or lack of effort. The facts are, dyslexia is a heterogeneous, which means everybody has different brain wiring. It's highly heritable, which means either one or both parents are dyslexic. And it's neurological, meaning this is a part of the brain wiring. So when you apply behaviorist principles to correct reading errors, you are fundamentally misunderstanding what dyslexia is, and you need to understand structured literacy. Here's another myth. Brain training programs can cure dyslexia. So there's actually no scientific evidence that a brain training program can cure anything, especially dyslexia. Some programs will tell parents, hey, pay the $10,000 and we will cure your kid. And unfortunately, there are several lawsuits to prove otherwise. Here's another myth. Whole language and balanced literacy approaches are research-based. The facts are they lack empirical support. Structured literacy is strongly backed by decades of cognitive science. Here's another myth. Dyslexia is caused by vision problems or letter reversals. The facts are dyslexia, again, is highly heritable. That means it comes from one or both parents, and it's a lifelong phonological processing difference that is in the brain wiring. It is not connected to the visual connections of the brain. Letter reversals are also common up until the age of 9, and it doesn't always mean that a student is dyslexic. Here's another myth. Dyslexia is tied to low intelligence or laziness. The facts are dyslexia is a neurotype itself. It occurs across all intelligence levels, including the gifted neurotype as well. So you can have what we call a 2E or twice exceptional student that is gifted and dyslexic. Here's another myth. Dyslexia can be cured or outgrown. Again, dyslexia is lifelong, but structured interventions can greatly improve reading and spelling skills. Here's another myth. Dyslexia is rare. Actually, if you have a classroom of 20 students, 1 in 5 of those students is dyslexic. It affects 15 to 20% of the population, and 85% of adults do not get correctly identified. Here's another myth. Students with dyslexia just need to try harder. Dyslexia, again, is in the brain. It's neurological. Effort alone is not enough. These students are not an individual problem. The problem is with the system. So we need to systematically enforce an evidence-based instruction. Here's another myth. Phonics is just drill and kill, and it kills the love of reading. The facts are systematic phonics, when paired with rich text and comprehension work, empowers children to read independently. When a child knows how to read, they will read. If they don't know how to read, they don't read. Here's another myth. Have you heard of hyperlexia? People assume, well, if you can read advanced, then comprehension just comes along with it, right? Not necessarily. So hyperlexia is mostly when a child, you notice, starts reading early or surprisingly beyond their expected ability. Hyperlexic students do benefit from structured literacy because even if you can decode words precociously, you sometimes struggle with the comprehension and language use, which is helped by morphology and etymology. Here's another myth. Hyperlexia means a child is gifted in all areas. The truth is, most students have what we call a spiky profile. That's where that heterogeneous word comes in. So even if they can read early on, it does not mean that they have advanced overall cognition. Here's another myth. Hyperlexia is always tied to autistic students. So you want to understand with neurodiversity, overlap is the rule. So while many autistic children are also hyperlexic, not all hyperlexic children with that neurotype are autistic. Here's another myth. Good readers rely mostly on context clues or pictures. Skilled readers actually rely on decoding context, and pictures are secondary supports, and they do not support, especially in the advanced grades. All right, here's another myth. Sight words must be memorized by rote memorization. Words actually become sight words through orthographic mapping. Remember we talked about that earlier? It's an automatic process after repeated decoding, and you build that automaticity. Here's another myth. Balanced literacy bridges phonics and whole language. Does it? The facts are, balanced literacy gives lip service to phonics, but it relies heavily on ineffective strategies such as 3-cueing. Here's another myth. Once students can decode, we don't have to do anything else. Comprehension will just naturally happen, right? Wrong. Comprehension also has to be explicitly taught. You need to teach vocabulary, morphology, etymology. They need to build background knowledge and have language development, not just decoding and encoding skills. Here's another myth. Reading interventions can wait until 3rd grade. This is commonly called wait to fail. The truth is, early intervention is critical, but you can't intervention your way out of a good, explicit instruction. So you don't want to wait, but also the main general education teachers need to know what structured literacy is. All right, here's another myth. Only a few students in a typical class need phonics. Really? It's actually 60% of students will need explicit systematic phonics and learn to read proficiently. The remaining 40% are advantaged by explicit and systematic phonics, which accelerates their growth and consolidates their learning. So it's not a lose-lose. It's actually a win-win. Here's another myth. Reading comprehension always takes a back seat in phonics instruction. Does it? The truth is, in order to comprehend what they have to read, students also have to decode words and store them via that wonderful orthographic mapping. So, in any good phonics, and I would say synthetic phonics instruction, reading comprehension is going to be the end goal. Effective phonics instruction includes attention to meaning and happens alongside rich oral language development. Here's another myth. Some students can read words out loud perfectly, but can't understand them, and this is a common long-term problem. The facts are, some people who call these students word callers are actually rare. Most children who appear to read without comprehension actually have gaps in decoding or language skills that need explicit instruction. Structured literacy can prevent mislabeling children as word callers by ensuring that both decoding and comprehension skills are taught systematically. Here's another myth. Students need reading strategies, like guessing words based on the first letter and looking at illustrations. The truth is, 3Qing practices are ineffective. They have been debunked for decades now. Skilled readers decode every word they read, letter by letter. We have to build thriving readers, not guessers. Here's another myth. It's more authentic to address phonic patterns as they arise when reading books with students. Really? Research actually proves that it's more effective to teach phonics elements in a carefully designed cumulative sequence. This is what we call a scope and sequence. A patchwork approach, which is balanced literacy, will leave students with gaps. Students who are taught systematically are better at reading and writing words and comprehending text. Here's another myth. Oh, phonics is just so boring. The truth is, learning the tools to unlock written code and become a proficient reader and writer is extremely meaningful and motivating. Good phonic instruction from a skilled teacher is going to be enjoyable, fun, interactive, and hands-on. Here's another myth. Phonics instruction should focus only on individual words and patterns. The truth is, phonics is most effective when students apply learned skills to reading and writing connected text. Here's another myth. Phonics assessments are only about decoding single words. Phonics assessments, actually in a structured literacy setting, evaluate decoding, encoding, segmentation, and application of rules, give a complete picture of literacy skills and intervention needs. Here's another myth. A traditional spelling test is equivalent to a structured literacy dictation or phonics assessment. The truth is, the spelling tests that we grew up doing only measure memorization of specific word forms, not the ability to apply phonological and orthographic knowledge. Structured literacy assessments focus on sound-symbol relationships, decoding, encoding, and generalizable rules, which predict reading and spelling success. Here's another myth. Dictation in structured literacy is just fancy spelling tests. The truth is, dictation is an encoding exercise, and it helps students map sounds to letters, apply morphology, and internalize phoneme-grapheme patterns. It builds automaticity in spelling and decoding, which is fundamentally different from memorizing unrelated words. Here's another myth. Exposure is more important than mastery. Following the pacing guide is the most important thing. The truth is, exposure does not work. Teaching to mastery does. A curriculum is a guide, not a mandate. A skilled and knowledgeable teacher will use an assessment to place students on a scope and sequence and give them a practice that they need to master taught skills. A knowledgeable administrator will support their teachers in teaching to mastery and adapt the curriculum to the student need. Here's another myth. All spelling instruction should focus on memorization for quick results. The truth is, evidence-based literacy emphasizes explicit instruction in phonology, morphology, and orthography, which leads to long-term spelling, reading, and comprehension success. Memorization alone is insufficient. So if you've reached this part of the video, great job! You've learned how to debunk some of those myths. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I didn't cover or if there's any other myths that you're hearing today, and you can help me create a new video.